Oh, sorry about that. I was muted. My name's Duncan Harvey. I'm the Housing Development Manager at Sedgemoor District Council, and I can confirm I can hear and see everything that's going on.
Right, Mrs. Wellman.
Melanie Wellman, Assistant Director, Legal and Governance, and Legal Advisor to the Executive, and I can confirm that I can see and hear everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Osborne.
Nigel Osborne from Legal Services, and I can confirm that I can see and hear everything.
Right, thanks. Mr. Melhuish, have I left anybody out?
No, Leader, that's everybody who is presenting and the members of management strategic leadership team.
Thank you. In that case, then we'll move on to the agenda proper. Any apologies for absence, please?
No, Leader, no apologies for absence reported today, but obviously Councillor Healy is not currently on the call.
Thank you. And presumably then if Mr. Healy, or Councillor Healy, comes in halfway through any particular debate, then he would be excluded from voting on that item because he hadn't heard and seen the whole debate on that item.
That would be correct, yes. He can join the meeting, but would not take part in that element of it. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Right, members, any declarations of interest? Councillor Dudridge.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. On item 5, after talking to the monitoring officer and taking advice, I'd like to declare a personal interest as a board member of Homes in Sedgemoor.
Okay. Thank you. Presumably that's just a personal interest, but not personal prejudicial. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise, Leader.
Thank you. Thank you. And you're happy with that, Mrs. Wellman?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Next item.
Sorry, Leader, just to interrupt you, just before you proceed any further, Councillor Mark Healy is now on the call, so if you just want to confirm that he can see and hear, and he can then participate in the meeting.
All right, thank you. Councillor Healy, if you could state your name, position, and that you can hear and see everything, please.
Yeah, so first of all, apologies. I've been trying to get on for about a quarter of an hour now and finally managed to do it. But yes, I can clearly see and hear everything. My name's Mark Healy. I'm portfolio holder for commercial asset management within Sedgemoor District Council.
Right, thank you. Then moving on then to agenda item 3, which is urgent business. Members will note that we have one item of urgent business, hence Mr. Osborne being with us, and that's to deal with pavement licences, matter that under the current new regulations we will need to deal with today so that it can be in place if agreed by next week. Are you happy that we take that as an urgent item? Just nod on that one. We're not voting on it just yet. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Moving on then, public speaking time. Not aware that we have any public speakers at all, but I'll let members of the council speak in the normal way on any particular item should they signify that they wish to do. And then on to agenda item. Oh, I should say that I will take the urgent business item after the housing revenue account, Tuckerton Lane, North Newton. So that'll be a new 5A or 5A or 6 or whatever, but before the housing enabling budget report. Right, agenda item 5, housing revenue account. Councillor Gilling.
Thank you, Leader. I don't know if anybody has access to the paperwork for this meeting, but nevertheless, just to give you the executive summary, the purpose behind this is to recommend the purchase of 6 carbon neutral properties out at Tuckerton Lane, North Newton, with a view to borrowing £950,000 to cover this over a 30-year period, which we are informed is perfectly practical and possible. And beyond that, at the moment, Leader, if it's with your permission, I will hand that over to Mr. Harvey if we're still with us. He's got the details to his fingertips.
Yeah, Mr. Harvey, go ahead.
Good. Can everybody hear me? Yep.
Yes, yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's fine. Just making sure I'm not talking to myself. Thank you, Leader. This is a report to associate with a rural housing scheme. We're working with North Newton Housing Steering Group, which is a group of local representatives working with the council and with a developer to bring forward a small development of new homes in the village. 12 new homes is the principle, of which 6 will be new affordable homes, new carbon neutral affordable homes. And at this stage, whilst there's quite a bit of work to still be done in terms of refining layouts, agreeing final tenures, and what have you, and we've got some ongoing work with the steering group to do with that. This is really about the principle of all things being equal, and assuming this project were to get planning permission and deliver the right type of units and the carbon neutral homes that we hope for, would the council wish to put its best foot forward and wish to purchase the 6 affordable housing units and take them in as council homes and add to their housing stock? So at the moment, there isn't a defined project. We've got the skeleton of a project in place, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to breathe confidence into the developer to say, please carry on working on this project despite their reservations around COVID, reduced income, risk, and everything else. So it's really just an in principle to carry on. And we would bring a report back at a later date just to confirm where we were going with this. What members will see is there are 4 recommendations around the potential investment of up to 950,000. We may well end up not spending that level of money, but we've built in a bit of wriggle room because what we know about projects, some things tend to change over time in terms of cost. We do know we could afford 950, but we're obviously looking to get it for a cheaper price if members were minded to work on that. What members will also notice in the recommendation, there is also although it's not a subject to bit, it talks about wavering standing orders, and Melanie in her legal comments has picked up the reason for that waiver, and that's really to do with the fact that we're not actually procuring the units in terms of going out and saying please build us these units. We'll be effectively buying the units from a developer who will be building those units to a specification. So that's really what that waiver is talking about. Melanie may wish to comment on that. So as I say, I mean it's a project it's a project designed to tackle a very acute shortage of affordable housing, specifically in North Newton. The project is using the market homes to effectively provide the subsidy to pay for the affordable. So in other words, historically, we would put a grant into affordable housing units, and we would not see that grant come back to us at all. It would be non-recoverable. So instead of a grant going in, the developer is putting some of the profit back into the scheme, which will allow him to build the affordable housing units, because it typically costs more to build a home than he's going to get from either us or a housing association. So the 950,000 we're talking about is recoverable capitalised rents or sale proceeds from shared ownership units. So we will see that return to us over a 30-year period. But beyond that, we're not proposing to put any grants in. I think that's in a nutshell where we're going with that. And I'm happy to answer questions, Leader, if members or anybody else has questions.
Thank you. Mrs. Wellman, you were name checked there. Is there anything you wish to say on that?
Yes, just to reiterate what Mr. Harvey said, which is that normally before investing in effectively one developer, we would go through a competitive process. In this case, that's obviously not appropriate because it's one developer who owns the land. So the advice in the report is that we waive standing orders to enable us to do that. We don't have to be concerned about European procurement rules because we're below that level. So yeah, my advice would be to waive standing orders in this case.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Revens, Member of Council.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Obviously, I'm both a ward member and a member of the Development Committee. I'm just want to be careful not to predetermine myself on this one, but I smiled greatly when I read the report. Can I just ask what we can do? I'm really pleased to see new council houses. What can we do to protect this asset from the right to buy? I'm particularly concerned that in rural locations like this, the right to buy can be manipulated, unfortunately, to create situations where they don't stay in the social market. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sure we can answer that. My understanding would be that the right to buy would still apply, but I would think they were high premium houses. But Mr. Harvey, I'm sure, will be able to answer that.
Leader, you are right. The right to there is a statutory right to buy for council tenants, and that's still in place. There are some safety nets, and it revolves principally around. We can't sell the property for any less than we're paying for it to start with, so that in itself would be quite a chunky amount of money someone would have to find. And of course, the value of the completed units would be relatively high, given its locality and given the prevailing house prices in North Newton. So even with a discount off, from an open market value, the potential purchaser would still be looking at a significant significant value to a mortgage to raise or purchase price, which probably on a 3-bed house would be well in excess of £200,000 even with a discount. So we are, as a council, obviously looking at ways of trying to mitigate this risk. But we're still taking advice, and I know I've spoken to Melanie Wellman and her legal team about what we can do about trying to protect those. We don't have the answer to it, but I think there are some safety nets, certainly in the short term, which would negate the risk of that happening in the foreseeable future. But you can never say never, of course.
Thank you, Duncan. Thank you, Duncan.
Thank you. Councillor Bradford, did you want to say anything?
We're going to stay quiet. And we had a constructive meeting with Duncan last night, the steering group, and we're much clearer in going forward. It's been bogged down a bit because of the virus. Things have got a bit cold, and it needs to be heated up and spurred on again. Well, people's enthusiasm are going, to be frank, and I'm sure Duncan got that sort of message last night. But I'm quite happy with what I hear, and I'm sure the people of North Newton will look forward to this coming, because there's been several requests for these sort of things in the last 18 months since we kicked it off 2 years ago. It's always been one of my joys to try and get affordable housing through for the villages. It's well overdue, in my opinion, these small developments in villages, and hopefully this will be the start of things to come in a lot of villages. So we'll go from there. But thank you very much, Leader, and thank you, Duncan, for all the work you've done. Thank you very much. It's not been an easy period of time, and I realise that with virus, the markets are going to change. You aren't going to see so many people about with money. In fact, a lot of them might not have any money at all. You just don't know what is going to happen going forward when you listen to the news. So we have to be a bit careful and wary in this. And there's a risk to everything we do in life at the moment. A risk, and we all know that. But thank you all again, Councillor, anyhow, for listening to me. And I'm going to sit back and listen with intent. Thank you. Thank you, Leader.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bradford. Can I just make a plea, please? Can we just use the conversation box on the left-hand side to indicate that you'd like to speak? I think it's a bit unfair to put questions in there. We need to record the questions on air rather than on the side panel, so that we are completely open. So we've had one question that's come in, which is, who is the developer? And the developer is Peninsula Developments. And the second question, Janet, do you want to give that question verbally, and Duncan will try and answer it? Or
thank you. Thank you. This type of arrangement seems to be almost a pattern now from several sites. When this has happened previously, my understanding was that the negotiated purchase price was low enough to compensate us for not receiving the Section 106 money. Is this still happening now, or will there be some Section 106 for the local community at a later stage?
I think we could, if I could just clarify that, the would-be purchase price would be a grant-free value that we will get back through capitalised income, whether that be sales receipts and or rent. So they are significant. We're buying them for what we can afford to pay and then repay the bank manager, the government in this case. In terms of when you refer to Section 106 money, Councillor Keane, I think are you actually referring to SIL money, Community Infrastructure Levy?
Yes, so that the local community can at some later stage
correct,
have some benefit of what they would like rather than what we would tell them.
Yes, there will be some SIL payable. The affordable housing units are exempt from SIL, so there will be no affordable housing. But you would take the view that the affordable housing is a community benefit, a significant community benefit, which we're generating. We or the housing association would buy at significantly below the market value. The market homes, of course, would be subject to a SIL levy, and under the current SIL regs, and because the North Petherton neighbourhood plan hasn't progressed as far as one would hope, they would be eligible for 15% of that SIL levy that comes in. So there would be money available to North Petherton Town Council on the back of this scheme, but it would only be levied against the 6 market homes.
Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. If there are no other members of council wishing to speak, I'll go to Councillor Slocum.
Thank you, Leader. I would just like to say that I would support this wholeheartedly. I think to invest in more homes for us as a council is the way forward to get carbon neutral homes. And I would like to thank Mr. Harvey for an excellent report, which is very self-explanatory and very detailed. And I think this is the way we need to go. And in these difficult times, I think we need to applaud this work and let's crack on because this is excellent. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other member of the executive wishing to speak? No? Well, perhaps I'll say that whilst there is quite a long way to go in the process of actually delivering on these homes in North Newton, I must say the accolade of getting 6 new build carbon neutral homes, it does not escape me, and certainly will be a feather in the cap both for North Newton, North Petherton and Sedgemoor, and I think we should look forward to the day in which we can actually go down to the opening of these homes to have a good look around. And without further ado, Councillor Gilling, do you wish to propose the recommendation?
I do, Chairman, Leader, and I am delighted that this proposal is being put because the construction of carbon neutral properties, aka passive housing, has long since been a wish on my wish list, and I'm delighted to see these constructed and see how effective they are. I think any village would be would welcome them with open arms in terms of their kudos and their economy of management. So I think it's got to be to our credit to carry on towards our 2050 target of carbon neutrality. Thank you. That's one.
Thank you.
I willingly propose the recommendations.
Thank you. And Councillor Slocum?
I would like to second that motion, please, that recommendation.
Right. Thank you. In which case, then, it's been proposed, seconded, we'll come to the vote. And I'll lead off. As Leader of the Council, I confirm I've seen and heard the entire debate and am supportive of the recommendation. Councillor Slocum.
I'm Councillor Slocum, and I have seen and heard the debate, and I seconded the recommendation, fully in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Caswell.
Yes, Leader. I've seen and heard the debate, and I'm fully supportive of the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Duddridge.
Yeah, Leader. Seen and heard all the debate and very happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Gilling has seconded it, but can you confirm you're in favour?
Indeed, I am in favour. I'm delighted to be supporting and proposing this recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Healy.
Thank you, Leader. I've seen and heard the entire debate and fully supportive of this scheme to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keane.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, Janet Keane. I have heard the complete debate and I support the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Go to Mr. Milhewish to confirm the vote.
Thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to confirm that that was a unanimous decision on those recommendations.
Right, thank you. Thank you, members. And then moving on then to the emergency urgent item, which is pavement licences, and we've got Mr. Osborne with us. I'd just like to say that under the new, new regulations of government to encourage social distancing and many other things, the ability for pavements and roadways to be used as outdoor businesses is imminent. But unfortunately, the legislation or the rules don't allow for a short process. They tend to be quite protracted at the moment. So the purpose of bringing this report to you is to approve a new way of working in order that we can deliver these licenses in a timely manner. Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, members. And firstly, thank you for considering this matter as a late item. As the leaders indicated, things moving incredibly fast at present, and this legislation has been presented to us by government at very short notice. Basically, as the country emerges from lockdown, the government has determined that in order to support the bar, restaurant and cafe industry, pavement licences could assume new importance given the strong scientific evidence of a lower risk of spreading coronavirus outdoors. As the leaders mentioned, there is an existing regime detailed in the report, paragraph 3, administered by the county as Highways Authority. However, it is considered to be bound in red tape and time consuming. The Business and Planning Bill, and it is still a bill and not an act, so is not yet in force, so we are sort of working with one hand tied behind our back at the present, proposes a simplified process for pavement licences administered by the district councils. However, whilst it is called a licence, it's a standalone piece of legislation, and there is no provision in the bill that puts the matter within the remit of licensing committees. Consequently, this report seeks approval for all matters in relation to the administration of the pavement licence to be delegated to the Assistant Director, Environment and Regulation, and also the Council can charge a fee of up to £100 for the licence, and this report also seeks approval for the Council's charge to be the maximum of £100 in line with all other Somerset districts, which was agreed at a meeting yesterday. That's the report, members. Happy to take any questions regarding this matter.
Right, members. Any questions? I've got Councillor Healy.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, and thanks for the information, Nigel. From a commercial point of view, of course, the Sedgemoor District Council, this is a good move, clearly, because if you look at, people talking at the moment about getting inside pubs and restaurants, clearly, it is limited. So I think, weather permitting, of course, it's a really good move, and I totally support it, like Councillor Slocum does. If it gets business moving again, it's good for the local economy, it's good for the council, and it's good for the population of Bridgewater. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. I mean, from my point of view, to me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. We need to get on with it as quickly as possible. And I'm happy to propose. Does anyone else wish to speak on the matter? Councillor Slocum.
I just wanted to second the recommendation, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of council wishing to speak? No, in that case, it's been proposed, seconded. I'll go to the vote. And as Leader of Council, I've heard and seen the report and the presentation, and I'm happy to support. Councillor Slocum.
Councillor Slocum, I'm fully heard the report and saw the recommendation, and I fully support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Caswell.
Councillor Mike Caswell, I have seen the report and read it thoroughly, and I've heard the debate, and I'm fully supportive.
Thank you, Councillor Doddridge.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Yeah, read the report and listened to the presentation. Very happy to support.
Thank you. Councillor Gilling.
Thank you, Leader. I have heard and listened to everything that was said about the report, and I'm perfectly happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Healy.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I've seen and listened to the debate and the report, and I'm fully supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keane.
Yes, I have. Sorry. I have seen the report and I have heard the presentation, and I agree the presentation and I agree the recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Mel Hewish.
Yes, thank you, Leader, and pleased to confirm that that was a unanimous decision in line with the recommendation in the report circulated.
Thank you. And it did put me in mind of a comment that was made by Mr. Osborne during the course of the presentation about the existing pavement and street licensing is veiled in red tape, and then we come to vote, and it does seem a particularly clunky way of voting, but nevertheless it fits the legal bill for doing that. But yeah, right. Thank you, Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Leader.
For coming along, and let's get on with it. Thank you. Right, moving on then, members. We have a next agenda item, which is the housing enabling budget, All Saints Terrace in Bridgewater. Members may well notice that there are possibly two reports that are connected to the same thing. Hopefully, during the course of the debate on this first report, we will not stray into the territory of the second report. Should we do so, then we would have to go into exempt session in order to discuss that. So without further ado, I don't know whether Mrs. Wellman wishes to say anything on that.
No, just to reiterate what you stated, Leader, just to be careful to obviously only confine your comments in relation to item 6, and we will then go into exempt session for item 7. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And in that case, Councillor Gilling.
Thank you, Leader. I appreciate your opening comments on this, and I will endeavour to not stray into territories beyond the recommendations. Those of you that have seen the paperwork that's involved with this, and yet again I defer to Mr. Harvey to be able to fill in the background, because the project owner, or the reporting officer rather, is not able to be with us today. So if you could possibly, if Mr. Harvey is willing to take over, that's fair enough. I'd be delighted for that to happen.
Right, Mr. Harvey.
Oops, just stopped my video. Hello, everybody again. Yeah, this, I mean, hopefully everybody's had a chance to read the report. This is a request for a £100,000 grant from the Housing Enabling Budget, 2021 Housing Enabling Budget, to support the construction of 20 new affordable rented homes on a parcel of land known locally as All Saints Terrace, near Western Zoyland Road. Can I just, before I go into the report itself, can I just bring members' attention to the Equalities Impact Assessment, which is section 4. The actual assessment says 28 affordable homes. Just for clarity and for the sake of avoidance of doubt, we're talking about 20 affordable housing units. But the impact assessment is still relevant to the 20, so it's a bit of a typo that wasn't picked up prior to submission. So the site at All Saints Terrace is a small industrial site. The landowner has decided to close the site. It's currently occupied by a garage, an MOT centre, and some I guess formal, semi-informal car sales arrangement on site. Nevertheless, the owner has decided they wish to dispose of the site, wish to close the site, And in terms of the current users, employment users on the site, we've been working with our ED team to help facilitate finding those people alternative locations. And my understanding is that all of those have been helped in some form or another. I can't give you the details, but I understand that there's been help. So we're certainly not in a position where we're making people lose their jobs. So the site will become empty, will be boarded up, and with an opportunity to purchase this. The reason why this site's of interest to us is because obviously this forms part of our response to the Hinckley construction workforce. This is part of our mitigation programme in terms of increasing capacity of bed spaces within the town of Bridgewater. So this is part of our, as I said in the report, this is part of our £31 million portfolio of Hinckley enabled new build projects, and obviously this project is 3.7 million, so it's a not an insignificant investment into that portfolio. The site currently has planning permission for the 20 units, and that went through recently. We have a constructing partner on board in the form of E.G. Carter. We have we've been able to maintain Magna Housing Association's interest in the site despite the COVID situation. And just as an aside, nearly every single housing association that is developing new homes has had to take stock of their development program as a direct result of COVID in terms of financial implications to their organisation, but also about risk management. Magna have kept this on their books when they've put a stop to some of their other projects, not in Sedgemoor, but certainly in Sedgemoor they are committed to building this scheme. The reason why the £100,000 is required is obviously we talked about capitalised income that pays off the loan. Well, Magna will suffer the same fate. The lion's share of their investment will come through a loan through their bank manager. So there's a limit to what they can physically pay in terms of the contract price. So the reason why the 100,000 has suddenly become an issue is because once the contractor's been able to go on site and do some more detailed investigations into the ground conditions, what's become apparent is that the foundation arrangements are a lot more significant than was first envisaged, quite frankly. Basically, we've got to pile deeper than we thought is the gist of it. And there is a very small but nevertheless important contribution being requested by our Parks and Open Spaces officer towards an off-site contribution to putting into another site in the immediate locality. It's not a huge amount of money, but that's the combination of the additional ground works and the groundworks, the piling, and the public open workspace request. It's left the scheme £100,000 short. So what members will see from the report, it's Magna are putting in just short of 2.4 million. That includes £460,000 of their own subsidy, which they won't see back through capitalised rents. That they call it a community contribution. So in other words, they're putting money in over and above the capitalised value of what they'll get back through rents. Homes England, where we said HCA, that should read Homes England. There's a £900,000 grant going in. The Hinckley Housing Fund is contributing 300,000, which leaves us with the 100,000, which we're asking exec to approve today. I think that, in a nutshell, is where we're going with it. And obviously, happy to answer questions, Leader.
Thank you. Before I go to members of council, any other officer wish to make any comment on the report? No, in that case, then Councillor Evans.
Good morning. Thank you very much for another really interesting, informative report, Duncan. 2 questions, please. First of all, when this came before the Development Committee, I was concerned about the play facilities that were being suggested. It was suggested that the contributions would be going to Eastover Park, which is a medium-sized walk, I would say, away from this. It would be, I think, it would be better if there was something in the immediate vicinity the area, given the market that these houses are for, and I wonder whether that could just be looked at again. Secondly, I read with interest paragraph 12 of your report, which says that Sedgemoor District Council has announced a climate change crisis and is now working towards reducing carbon emissions by 2050. It's actually the policy of this council to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. I hope this isn't a watering down of the commitment that members passed. Thank you.
The question of where the public open space money sits is something I could feed back to the public open space officer, and it's clearly it will be ultimately his decision as to where that money gets spent. And obviously the comment about 2050 rather than 2030, I will. As far as we're committed to delivering carbon neutral homes as quickly as possible. So that comment came in from our climate change officer, so I will pick that up with her when I speak to her next.
Thank you.
That slightly concerns me even more, I'm afraid. But yes, okay. Thank you very much for the answer.
Yeah, I would ask that perhaps with the contribution towards play area, perhaps the Parks and Open Spaces officer could consult the ward members of the area who probably have a fairly good idea of what's going on in that area, and that might be helpful if they could be involved. Members, any other comments or questions? Councillor Slocum.
Thank you, Leader. I do agree. I think a play area are important, but I would say that the Eastover, the area that is very located so near, is absolutely brilliant and really adequate. So I am a little bit, I do feel that should be taken on board, really. I think the report is really concise. It's really well done, and I would like to support this recommendation. I think Councillor Harvey. I keep saying you're a councillor. I do apologise. Mr. Harvey has laid all the details down really very, very well, and again, it's something that we need. We need affordable housing, so support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, why wouldn't we want to support affordable housing? And certainly we will. Councillor Gilling, then, if there's no further debate from members.
Thank you, Leader. I'm delighted by the debate that's followed and the quality of the report that was produced to encourage that debate. So it gives me great pleasure to move the recommendation that the Executive award a capital grant of £100,000 to Magna Housing Association to support them to build 20 new affordable homes, affordable rented homes, land, and All Saints Terrace, Bridgewater, subject to Magna Housing Association entering into a funding agreement with Sedgemoor District Council. And I'm very pleased to move that recommendation, Leader.
Thank you. Councillor Slocum.
I would like to second that report, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Report's been moved and seconded. And I will now go to the vote. I'm Councillor McGinty, and I've heard and seen the debate and the report, and happy to vote in favour. Councillor Slocum.
Councillor Slocum, I have seen and heard the debate and happy to support the recommendation.
Councillor Caswell.
Councillor Caswell, I have seen and heard read the report, and I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Duddridge.
Yeah, Councillor Duddridge, I've seen and heard the report and very happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Gilling.
Thank you, Leader. As the proposer of this recommendation, I have seen and heard the debate and delighted with the outcome and more than happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Healy.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Healy, I've seen and heard the debate and I'm happy to support, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but by no means least, Councillor Keane.
Thank you. Councillor Janet Keane, I have read the report and I've heard the presentation and all the debate, and I support the recommendation.
Thank you. And then Mr. Melhuish.
Thank you, Leader, and I'm pleased to confirm that the decision was unanimous. Leader, you just need to unmute your microphone, sorry.
Apologies. Right. Thank you very much for the confirmation. Then, members, we have one further report which is to be held in exempt. I'd like to propose that press and public are asked to leave during consideration of the following item on the grounds that it involves information which is likely to reveal the identity of an individual defined by paragraph 3, part 112A of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended, and contains critical financial information within the report. Are you happy that we take the final item under that exempt rule?
So moved.
Members.
So moved.
Right, thank you. Mr. Melhuish, do we have to go take a formal vote?
It would be acceptable to do that, yes, please.
Yep.
Sorry to add a little bit more process to, but then it's absolutely clear. And once that vote's taken, if I could just, I just want to make a statement. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Leader of Council, and I'm happy to support the rules under which the final item will be taken. Councillor Slocum.
Councillor Slocum, I'm also happy to support the rules with this item. Thank you.
Who have we got next then? Councillor Caswell.
Happy to support to go into exempt session, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Doddridge.
Yeah, Councillor Doddridge, happy to move into exempt session.
Thank you. Councillor Gilling.
Thank you, Leader. More than happy to support the recommendation and that we should go into exempt session.
Thank you. Councillor Healy.
Yes, thank you, Leader. More than happy to go into the exempt session. Thank you.
Councillor Keane.
Janet Keane, I agree we go into exempt session.
Thank you. Mr. Melhuish.
Yes, thank you very much, Leader. Thank you, members, for that confirmation. What I propose to do now is we will go into the exempt session. If members of the public or press were present, we would just go through a process of making sure that they were excluded from the call, so there could be a slight sort of 30-second to a minute delay whilst those people are leaving the call as if they were leaving the Sedgemoor room. What I also propose to do now is to end the recording of the executive meeting for the 1st of July, and the recording that will go up onto the YouTube channel in the next few days will not have this element of the meeting recorded.